All right. Let us begin. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're gonna get started shortly. Alright, so we got that. Hope everybody's having a great weekend. Today we're going to do some more deep diving. Justin, lawful evening. Yep, it is that time of week again. Alright, so I got that, and we are going to cover this as well. The diagram thing. Alright, got that. What's that thing again? Hi Mara, lawful, welcome. So Beck, lawful, welcome. Yeah man, welcome, welcome. Kim, lawful, evening, welcome. Who else there? I got King Kong, lawful, evening, welcome. Hope everybody is doing good. What's it? I can't remember. Can't remember what the thing is that I closed. Kwaku, lawful, greetings. And it was an important one too, you know. I can't find it in the history because it was open a long time ago. Let me see if I can find it. What was it called? It was a commission. Commission, you know? What was the name of that thing again? I like to hear that life is infinitely beautiful. Yes, man. 100%. Let me see if I can find this thing I was reading. I think it's called that. Let me see. That's not it. Alright, but let's have to go. When I get some time, I am gonna have to find back that document. A very important document. Very important document. Let me see. I had the thing open and it's been sitting there and I forgot to transfer it over to the other browser. Man. Let me just check a little bit more. No, it was a document. Allison, lawful, greetings. Fast car, lawful, greetings. Yeah man, welcome, welcome. You know, it was about... let us tone down the music. Yeah man, I definitely have a backup of everything. It's just that my history, my search history and my browser history is so extensive that if I am to go and try to find something, especially like even a week ago, I'm going to be scrolling for a while. Let's just say that. Shadow in the light, lawful, greetings, welcome. And welcome to everybody. Hope all is well. And today is going to be another Fire Live. You know, the gems are coming. Gems are always coming. And as I always say, make sure you have on a pen and on a paper, because we're going to be going over some stuff and I want everybody to be aware that we are not going to be repeating a lot of stuff, because as you know, the agents, when we start talking about certain things, they start reporting the lives, right? You know, and I think it's so unfair. You know, I think if somebody is going to report the live stream, there should be, I mean, I get it. So much people are going live, right? You can't have human hands in the thing at all different levels. But at the same time, come on, put on some better measures. Because when we talk about history and we talk about factual things, you can't have people just report the live and you start putting on restrictions like that. It just don't make no sense. Unless that is really what they want, right? But when I will get into that, we're not going to get into that one. You see? Allow me to scroll and me just reach the constitutional, the population chart we were going over last time. So, anyways, so, welcome again. Today we're going to be talking about some additional matters, and then we're going to touch on our constitutional draft. You know, we've had a weekly thing now where it appears the government is paying attention. It appears the government is taking our ideas and they are trying to spin them. They are trying to do some little something. If you say, yeah, you know, say we didn't have this under our books, you know, say we didn't have this, you know, idea a long time now, we just go reveal it now. Exactly, them no want nobody know else. They don't want nobody else hear what I say. So when them teeth it, no one knows. Well, you see, the thing is, so they think. And this is why we record all the lives and we post them back on YouTube. For those who don't know what the YouTube page is, it is called Jamaicans Assemble. So you put in Jamaicans Assembly in YouTube and the page will come up. And you will see all of the constitutional drafts that we have done so far. So we are creating a historical record because, as you know, or you should know, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Sabek, lawful, thank you. Instagram, Facebook, all of these platforms are what's called publishing platforms. So you are literally a publisher. When you have a page, it is called your own personal publishing platform. That's why they can use it in a legal manner. This is how they can use it in defamation suits. This is how they can use it in all kind of court settings, because you have published it for the world to see. It is made public. Now, if you have a private page, that is different. It is no longer really a publishing platform. But once you make it public, those posts are now considered public notice. Right? Right, exactly. Even for interviews. So be careful what you make public, because it can be used against you, especially if you have not made a declaration either protecting, restricting the use of, or in some kind of way encompassing your posts so that people can just go and take it and do whatever they want. You know, interesting, if you go on my page, I have had a notice up for a long time, right? And people used to think it's a joke. But if you go on TikTok and you search for 876LB up here, so if you search for my name, you will notice that nobody is reposting my stuff. Like, they will not take my video and they will not do anything with it. You will not find someone else posting my videos, and you can see how serious that is. Was just waiting 2 minutes ago, it turned into 20 minutes. Yeah, we were on a little bit tardy today, but we are going to get started with the juicy details. You say why people don't repost? Is because they don't want to be held accountable. Just in case someone makes a false narrative about whatever I say, they don't want to be held accountable. So they don't take my content and they don't do anything with it. If they do take it, they don't make it public. Right? You see, there goes Kim. Kim also have her page. And when you put public notices, you can also put restrictions. You can put notices on your page to say that, you know, these are the conditions for the content that I post. And if someone wants to go take it and do something, they are free to do so. But if they violate the policy of the post page, then they can be held accountable, they can be charged, and you can also bring defamation suits against them. But again, you have to make that publicly known. You can't just say, well, them take my post and them do this and them do that. No, you did not set any restrictions. So that's possibly why. There we go. I found the link after many minutes of scrolling. All right, so now we can put things into context, right? What does that mean? They can't copy what you have done? Well, you can go on the page. You can go over here, so when you're done, you can go on the page and you can go and look at the sticky posts, the posts that are at the top, and you will see a notice there. Then once you read it, you'll have a better idea of what we're talking about, okay? So today we're going to get into some more juicy details. Now, many of us don't even bother going to look at slavery. We don't look at any real historical records. We only hear, we only get second-hand information from, sometimes from school, sometimes from TV, And sometimes from even social media posts. Many of us don't go digging to see what other colonial structures and documents are out there. I'm going to show you something. Oh, before we begin, I am not a lawyer, I am not an attorney, I am not providing legal advice. Anything I say is my own opinions. If you learn something, good for you. All right, so let's just get that out of the way so that people ingest this properly. All right, so let us take a look at this thing here. There was a society called the American Colonization Society, right? And this is a historical website, basically keeping this structure, this documentary structure, alive. Now, you would think that these people who came up with slavery, right? And matter of fact, they did not come up with slavery. These people who continued to practice slavery after it was outlawed, right? They would have just said, okay, make the people in us work off the rest of the time when they have them go about them business, etc., etc. Did you know that segregation, people actually wanting to separate themselves from what we today don't really have any references of, something called corruption of the races. Now, there are many societies that practice this, but they practice it in such a violent way that people do not necessarily want to consider it, right? So the notion is that the races should not mix, right? And if the races mix, that is where we get corruption, for the most part. I'm going to turn this around so I can talk to you a little bit about this. Then we can go back to that document. I have to get this deep, because ignorance is not going to serve us further. So I'm going to drop a little bit of knowledge. Listen, what I'm about to say is going to be controversial. Just prepare yourself, all right? If you don't want to listen to controversial things, especially as it concerns religion, you can sign off here now. I'll give you a few seconds. Zin? I'll give you a few seconds while I bring up something else on the screen. I'm going to leave that. Now we're going to bring up this. Nikki, good evening. Lawful greetings. All right, we're going to get started. Zin? Remember in the book of Genesis, Adam and Eve were driven out of the garden, right? Now, it is said that it is because they ate of the forbidden fruit. That is what is written. The two of them ate of the forbidden fruit, and that is why they were cast out of the garden of Eden, right? Now, we're not going to get into all of the semantics. Remote tours, lawful, greetings, welcome. We're not going to get into all of the semantics. However, the knowledge of good and evil, right, were not passed on to the children, which were two males, Cain and Abel, right? Now, how did Cain know that he could have ended the life of Abel? How? This is where, this is what God did not want to take place in the garden. Because, in case you did not read carefully, Cain and Abel were not twins. I'm going to say that again. Cain and Abel were not twins. Now it is said that the serpent deceived Eve, right? The serpent charmed her or explained to her in such a way that she could not use her basic reasoning to have just walk away and not be tempted, right? However, given the fact that the children were not of the knowledge of any kind of violence at all, we don't learn things just by anger or just by doing. We typically learn things either by genetics or we learn things by learning, by actually someone teaching us to do something, right? So, yes, we can discover things along the way, but something so drastic, right? We are typically fearful of anything that causes harm. So for us to do something that drastic, it is not something that you can just get up and do or something you just get up and know. You have to get some kind of help along the way. Okay? Now, the part of the story that we did not get is apparently one of the children was a jacket. Yes, Kwaku. So, the jacket was docile, meaning it did not really have a backbone. The jacket don't have a backbone. It is of a nature of ego, right? So, because it have a nature of ego, that is why it was sent away, because God does not want, even though they disobeyed, even though Cain and Abel, even though Adam and Eve disobeyed, they did not cause any violence, right? It was Cain who come about and start violence in that area, and that is still outside the garden, right? And if you notice, the story don't follow Cain and Abel. The story follow who? Sorry, the story does not follow Adam and Eve. It follows Cain. Right? Am I wrong? So, when Adam and Eve had their daughter, Cain already left, right? Yes, you are correct, Rush. People were already populating and doing building and, doing everything else, while Adam was later made in the garden, right? So people, the Bible already described, say, God created man and woman in his image already. And then later on, he created Adam and put him in a garden. So people did already live on earth to do all these things. But I want to bring you back to the focus of this discussion. Cain was a jacket. Abel was a pure blood. And Cain didn't know any of this. Right? It is just his nature why God send him away. Because if you notice, God no kill nobody. Right? God will punish you, But God now go just get up and just unalive you. Right? So, anybody who deal with unaliving, God make sure and separate them. Right? Send you if you go somewhere else, go and go do that somewhere else. There is plenty of land, plenty of places you can go. Just don't stay in the midst of the people. And if you continue to follow the story, you will also realize that in every single instance, God now get up and just unalive nobody. So you get your warning, you get your opportunity to just go your ways. And if you don't move, if you continue the way you did, then that's different. But you always get the opportunity to go your ways and either go think about it or go do your thing elsewhere. Make your own little place and economy and whatever, and you do your bad things down there. So, right? So, anyways, from them time there, the whole race mixing thing was always separate. It was never something that was condoned. People of a certain culture or a certain race, them stay by themselves. Right? The people them were of a certain culture and a certain race, them have them own land, them have them own place, them have them own culture, them have them own religion, them have them own belief, them have them own food. The people them had everything to sustain them within their own ecosystem and environment. Actually, now, J.A., we are going to touch upon that one next time. But you are correct. But it was very specific as to why. Very specific. But either way, when you have mixing of the races, there is always going to be one race where thinks them better than the other one. When you have mixing of the cultures, this is what causes wars. This is what causes conflict. Because one is going to think they are entitled to the things them what the other one have. Did you know that where you are born, the food in that location is the optimal food for your genetics? Let me say that again. Where you are physically born, the food in that location is optimal for your genetics. That's why when you go other places, the food might taste good, it might taste okay, but guess what? Your system eventually is going to reject it and it's going to start causing you to have allergic reactions. It's going to start having you to have ailments and all those kind of things because your system is designed for the earth in a location. You can look it up. This is public knowledge. I mean, it is in scientific journals and those kind of things. But it is there in the public and a certain way secret. When I say, boy, I may have to go email you or not. No, you can go and look it up yourself. Alright? I'm going to show you something even more peculiar. I'm actually going to show you this one. Let me show you. Let me show you and stop talk. Alright, you know how them used to call brown people the N-word, right? Did you know this was the actual spelling? And do you see what it means? They used to call brown peoples the N-word. But they never, remember, they took our language and beat us so that we can speak English. Right? They want to teach us everything about English. So as you can see, right? All over Ethiopia and them places, they never speak no English. A patois they used to talk. They used to talk all kind of broken English, broken Aramaic, broken all kind of other languages. English was not introduced when the Europeans them talk about them come so-called invade. Right? And this word actually means someone in a high place, like a king or a ruler. But because they took us away from our history, they took us away from our knowledge, they took us away from our roots, we took this term to mean something negative because that is the energy we are getting. So we are read energy and we are read it incorrect. This is the reason for the hate. They just spell the word a different way so that if we look up the word, it would have mean something else because what? A them a create the definition for the word them. So if a them a create the definition for the word them, instead of telling us the proper name for the word, what do you think them are going to put in there? Them are going to put in the hate. Right? So, this is the actual N-word. And this is the meaning for the N-word. And this is part of what they've been hiding much of this time. Right? Right. This is also in the Ethiopian Bible. Correct. So, after they realized that they could not keep us from learning the languages for long enough, people, I spoke to you about this before. And I don't know if someone want to get it. Did you know that we, specifically Jamaicans, our language evolved? But you see, before the language evolved, and this term that I just showed you, I'm going to show you how it comes full circle. You see, we never really practice these physical things. We never really into physical. You see, once we get to goal, and we realize that gold is stagnation. Gold is the epitome of the chemical the chemical chemistry of physical items. Right? When you talk about alchemy, or you talk about chemistry, or you talk about the mixing of material and those kind of things, gold is at the very top of it. Right? And there are different types. We're not going to a different type of gold. But anyways, gold is the epitome of it. Right? What we realize over time is that the only thing gold is doing is allowing for wars to perpetuate. Right? And when wars perpetuate, then we can't have peace. And if we can't have peace, then that means we can't actually do anything spiritual. Let me say that again. If we have wars, we can't really do things spiritually. So you see, the places that don't have war, that is where spirituality can thrive. See, the place where we have war, there is too much chaos, too much noise for spirituality to take root, to take place. Zine? Exactly. So, when them put aside the gold, this is why they started burying the gold again. People, if you ever see the process to extract gold, it is not something easy. And for them to have amassed so much gold, you know, say, up to this day, there is nobody but the kings and the queens and the emperors on the African continent that have amassed the amount of gold that they have found. As much as they are extracting and stealing things nowadays, there is nobody in history other than the Africans who actually had the volume and the amount of golds that were found. Right? Mansa Musa is the famous king that had the most amount of gold in history. But what happened? Instead of that empire continuing to grow and continuing to be powerful, what did they do? They buried it. They put it back in caves. Right? They started giving it to the people. They started doing all kinds of things. Because they realize what? As you extract these things and you now make them into idolatry, it takes away your spirituality. Let me say that again. You see the physical items. The physical items that we are running after. You see, when you start idolize it, it takes away your spirituality. Soon we're going to get into why. Why you need to know this for those of you who are here. Right? Now, you see, we as a people, we still have the power and the ancient knowledge to alchemize things. Meaning, we can change physical reality. We can change physics from one form to the next. I'm not going to show you right now, but we can, and I'm going to demonstrate to you how we did that. All right? First thing you have to realize, you see, our language, it is unique. No other culture have what Jamaican language have. That is why, you see, when you look on this, term here, and you read what it says, people who end up in a positions of power, you think so they just reach this up? You think so they reach there and they don't have certain knowledge? You think so they reach there and them don't know how to do certain things? When we hear about Nanny of the Maroons, when we hear about Paul Bogle, we hear about the Maroons, them, the Moors, those of ancient time. We have to wonder, if them never did speak English, how did patois come around? I talked about this briefly before. How did patois turn into what we call patois? Because if you write it, and I implore you, try to write patois. Many of you already have the skill. It is just not fluent, right? But just write down a little bit of patois here and there, and then take time read it. You're going to start, see, say, you have Spanish in it, you have French in it, you have English in it, and you have the Nigerian dialect in it. Mostly Nigerian and Ghana. Nigerian and Ghana dialect in it. Right? So these words, the word and what we are use, and the way we use the word, Nigerian will understand we. People from Ghana will understand we. Even the regular American them will understand a little bit of what we are saying. Not much. Spanish people easier to understand what we are saying than actual Americans. I'm going to say that again. Spanish people will understand we quicker than one American. And just because no Spanish people don't really come to Jamaica like that. Why? Because you see, when them try colonize we, what our ancestors them do is take the language and infuse it in a way. You see, the one them, we are going to go on to extend the cultural bloodline, the cultural network. The ancestors them, the kings, and those who know how to transmute information. Right? How you know say? You see the people them who know how to transfuse and encode information? And them people there take up themselves and say them a go up on so-called slave ship. When them realize what go on, them take up themselves and them pretend to be captured. And them come over here because them want to see what really are going on. And when them see what really are going on, them stay and them capture and they infuse one language into the next and encode it so that when we reach the generations ahead, when time them tired out, and that's how we reach, them tired out. So all them I do now are just economics. So the physical colonial thing, them done with that. For them generation can't persist anymore. Yeah, the Spanish was here before the English, and guess what? They were only here for a short time. Only a couple of years. The British did it the longest. Right? But them never bother with the whole physical thing. Them done with that. All them want to just extract and just use it in economics. Exploit people economically. Them never really want continue the whole physical labor thing, because what? They realize that we learn too fast. No, the Germans them never come here. The Germans them did have our people over there. Our people go over there to teach them certain things. But them never actually do the enslaving thing. Right? So when we have these people, I say, and a fool we in a history book. You see, in the last 50, 60 years, them try convince we say, them something a go on. Right? Them are convinced we say, them something a go on in a history. But when you actually sit down and make sense of it, you see, it is a difference between just reading something and it sound like it makes sense, and then reading something and put it in a reality. Test it in a reality to see if it makes sense. Right? Just like we look on the globe there. Remember, back in the days, them never have no whole heap of white people in England. No whole heap of white people in Spain. So when them talk about them send how much in thousands of soldiers and thousands of this and foolishness. Foolishness. Them never did send no thousands of nobody upon no ship. Look on one ship. And them never have the capability to build no big ship like what them are build now. And even today, how much personnel can you actually put upon one ship? Them talk about them send, how much in 2,000 and 3,000 and 5,000. All them something there, Virgin. If you really take it into context in a them time there, a bare merchant ship people used to have. When them start develop so-called warships. A way later. So literally a merchant ship them I use. A merchant ship not that big for a whole not 1,000 people. I doubt if them could actually have 100 people per one ship. I highly doubt that. So anyways, when them come over claim say them are so-called colonize. What them not realize a go on is say we the too smart. We did too smart. Meaning we did not learn too fast. Them so-called claims that them take we from one place and bring it over to the Caribbean, but yet still there were already people here and them so-called dead out from disease and this and that. But yet still, as much as them I say, these people were not civilized, right? What were they transporting from the Caribbean over to Freedom side? If these people were not civilized and you never have a road, you never have building, you never have kings and queens and these kind of people just over here and just them not bother want deal with the materiality of where the Spanish and the British then depend. How come them extract out treasure upon top of treasure, treasure upon top of treasure, a ship overseas? Where then get it from? Because at that time, them never even have the knowledge for make any of these things. They never have the time either. So where them get it from? If we were not civilized, the only civility can come to mind is we never want nothing to do with the British system. we never want nothing to do with the colonial system with them depend. So in that manner, of course, we were not civilized to barbarism. That is actual a part of barbarism, to be enslaving people and forcing them to work. But when them come and extract out all of them something here, a thief for the kind them, a thief for the cup them, a thief for the gold, a thief for the crowns, a thief for all of these things. Right? What were we doing? We were stealing their tongue. We take them language and we encode it in a for our own. The British come, we make them do the same thing. We take them language and we encode it. So you see, in the end, them still couldn't really understand we. Them did have to come down to full level to understand what going on. Because when we start talking, them I say, oh, they just talk for them dialogue from where they come from. But then they start realize, so hold on the man. If you come from over so, and him come from over so, and the other one come from down there so, how you communicate? Like, we're not supposed to can understand what each other say. That was the point, that was one of them points, you know. Right? Them I wonder how we get to start communicate so fast. This is why they were going to different points. They were not going to the same place to go take people. And when them realize what really are going, them start, that is when they start so-called beat people for learn English. Them know why you talk, not what they can't understand. Especially when time people start come together and start riot and all them something there. But the point of all that is, we never want the so-called riches and them something with them a run down. All we wanted was to make sure say we encode and infuse into our system a language that them not understand and they can't really understand like that. Because what? It'll come from the land. Where your born plays a big role in your genetics. Then they brought the brown woman to St. Elizabeth. So anyways, because we take them tongue, all of them who try to come and try to do something, say them a so-called try to conquer and all them something there, it was like child's play to us, you know. It was like child's play. Yes, there was unaliving and them kind of something they are going. But you have to remember, the only place where we wanted to be was in the mountains them. That's the only place we did want. That is why the Maroons them didn't know. That is the only place we did really want there. The British them did want to spread out everybody so that you become few and far and in between. And you just work here and there and them get the little produce, them get the little this, them get the little that, and them send it back to England. Right? Now, interesting. If they were actually so powerful and successful, why would they be fighting the Maroons for 99 years? Dutchpat is not a question. It's not a question about them I try spread way out. We want going at the hills. And if you go and read even what they wrote, if you go and read what was written in the actual journals, them did actually just even a dead off without we do anything. Because them don't know about none of the plants them. Like cowitch, nickel, some of the poisonous things them where them can't eat. Them don't know nothing about the land. All them come and do, them see like banana and the fruits them and all them something and them think everything can eat. So when them start dead in a mass. Right? Right. Yeah, there are some people who still live in the hills and separate themselves from regular society. Right? There is no way a so-called civilized society with so-called superior weapons can take out some little bush people in our bush. Impossible. You so-called have guns and people in the bush don't have none, and you have a 99-year war. We're going to talk about that just a little bit. The Maroons and the British warred for 99 years. And it wasn't like, oh, standoff and this and that. The British them a try go up in the hills and then can't pass the hill bottom. This is why, did you know that in those times, if you have a war that passes 99 years, if it reaches 100 years, the aggressor has to leave forever. Let me say that again for those of you who don't really study history. If you have a nation aggressing another nation and they can't win within 99 years under international law, they have to leave forever. They can't come back, they can't war again, they can't do no diplomatic relations and them kind of something anymore. This is why they insisted on, you know something, let us sign a treaty. Let us come to an agreement. Let us come to an agreement. Right? And that is how you have the so-called Maroon Treaty. But even that, we're not going to really get too far into that. Right? But, again, this is why they came up with the N-word and they spelt it different. Because they don't want you to link any of that information to what actually happened. Well, you know, we're not going to get into the actual history today. We'll talk about just in generality. But there was a lease, so-called lease, but there was also a treaty, and there was also other agreements that were signed. There was also an international treaty with Morocco that is not talked about. But we're not going to get too far into this. We're just showing us some of the basic things that what people need to know. Right? So, because of this term here, and what they actually called us, because remember, you know, if you didn't realize, they tried to mimic us at all costs. Let me say that again. They tried to mimic us at all costs because that was the epitome of society. We already accomplished everything. They just got here. Okay? So, after we really never want no more of them material things and we start dealing with spirituality, right? We were trying to teach them civility, but they got caught up in the materialism and economics. They find that interesting and exciting. And they didn't want to learn anything else. They wanted to continue being barbarians. So, what they did, then continue being barbaric. This is why we learn about, even today, did you know that they have something called a tailbone? Like them literally born with something named one tailbone. You know, so them still not like beard. Them still like eat meat with blood in it. Them still do all of the things them. If you give them a chance, they will go and live in a cave. That's why them love being cold. Because when you eat, and as the Bible says, you're not supposed to consume blood. You're not supposed to, because it is one of those things that will corrupt your nature. Right? If it comes down to it, they can still survive an ice age. They can go into the mountains. Listen, for those of you who have lived in the States or Canada or even England, you will see them going outside in shorts when time you have a jacket and pad up and all of them something there and still cool. And then we go out there in a shorts and short sleeve shirt. No joke. So, them decide, say them no want Lego off of them something there. Much of the diseases that we have in society come from them and them nature. Them like they with animal. See? Anyways, when I will get stuck on that. So as we were alluding to earlier, there is this organization called the American Colonization Society. And this organization, right, their specific goal was to keep people enslaved. Right? And them always have these Renaissance looking pictures when them want depict like something civilized that go on. Right? I see it every year, every winter. Yeah, man, them still do it every single year. So them have these people in a clean clothes and look like them do something civilized, right? And it is always something hidden in these pictures. We're not gonna really get into the cryptography of them like a foolishness here, right? But when you start reading what exactly it is these people are doing, you would be surprised. Let me read a little part of it make on ear. As word of enslaved-led insurrections around the globe began to spread, enslavers and other leaders attempted to control the free black population with new restrictions and codes. The restrictions also led many white leaders to consider colonization to rid the US of free black people. Through colonization, the free black population would be settled in their own nation, eliminating the group of people deemed an imminent threat to the institution of slavery. A few proponents of colonization initially suggested the creation of a colony for black people west of the Mississippi or the West Indies. But after Paul Coufe, a mixed-race Quaker, shipbuilder, and activist, made a successful self-financed trip with 38 black people to Sierra Leone for the purpose of settling other free black people in 1815. Other supporters of colonization deemed the western coast of Africa the ideal location for a new colony. The perceived success of Coufe's voyage, along with the desire to remove free black people from the United States, altogether serve as the inspiration for the American Colonization Society. This was literally less than 300 years ago. All right. Originally known as the American Society for Colonizing the Free Peoples of Color of the United States, the American Colonization Society was founded in 1816 by a group of white elites including these names, formed to assist in the colonization and removal of free black people, the ACS quickly recruited support and financial backing from enslavers, the Protestant and Presbyterian churches, and others, including the federal government officials. But you see, this was before they knew who black people really were. You see, them thief all of the documents, them, you know. Them take all of the artifacts, them, you know. But them still never realize who we were and what purpose we were serving in the lands where we occupied. Right? Here you know. While the ACS had been founded with primarily pro-slavery motivations, the origins of the organization also suggest a commitment, albeit loose, to abolitionist beliefs. So they wanted to abolish slavery in other places, just not where they do business. So them basically want whosoever. You see, if you're free, what they want, you know. You see, the one them were free, them want them there somewhere else. Them don't want them amongst the one them where them can control. Right? So now to how them slick. And again, we teach them. We teach them. Them a learn from the Moors. The Moors that went to Spain and ended up in England as a result, because Spain and England pretty much they in the same vicinity. When them learn economics and learn how them can charge interest, how they can exploit in certain ways, even though some of it is unethical and we stop doing them something there, right? Them look at it as a lucrative opportunity, right? They could not manage the sent for the Irish to help, right? So they think of it as this lucrative opportunity, you know. So them no want nobody mash it up. So, and as you know, slavery was not something where them just have people, like even people just lock up, right? Right. Slavery was not people who were just locked up doing bad things. Them used to just grab people off of the street in a night, go thief people out of them bed. These were not rejects of society. These were upstanding men and women they were using as slaves. So you can't justify it in no way, shape, or form. Yes, there were people who were in prison who they say, you know something? If you don't want to take them, yeah man, go on with them. But most of who they were stealing were law-abiding, upstanding people with families in them. You get me I say? So, when them have the criminal them and the law-abiding people them, it is the law-abiding people them who are civil, who don't want war. They were the ones who ended up being the real slaves. You see, the one them who are revolt, and the bad man them, and the man them will say, yo, what you say? Hold on. You gonna do what? You gonna beat who? And them man they start the rebellion them. And them man they start teach people say, yo, what you talk about? Sharpen that piece of stick here. When he get too close, boom, you jam him. The man them not depend that. It's just like some people today. Today, you see, if the right amount of people say, yo, we need to go do this, you know, the man they're ready right now. The man them ready right here now for move. I just because them not have no bucketive why them not move, then can't really convince nobody to certain things. That's why them not move. You get me I say? Exactly. Exactly. That is why the security forces are taking out those people who are of that mindset. In some cases, I don't know the whole story, so I can't say. I really get into them kind of things there. Right? So, when we look at these accounts, and again, at them I tell we know, so we not have to speculate. Not for them something here, them it kind of depend on the fringe, right? You have to go out there search for. If you not go out there look for it, you're not going to find it. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to put this up on the research page on voiceofjamaica.com. So you can go and see it and read it for yourself in full. So your overs what me I say, your overs what them I say. Because even if you read for them story, because what them doing now, them give you peace here so, them give you peace over here so, them put some up here so, them put some in some other books, them hide it all over the place. But one thing them not gonna do, them not gonna hide everything. Sometimes they will tell you in a movies, sometimes they tell you in a book, sometimes they tell you in a journal, but they have to tell you. The reason they have to tell you is because of this. There is such a thing called spiritual law, and there is such a thing called physical law. Spiritual law don't apply to we. It's not really karma. Spiritual law no apply to we physically, but it applies to our bloodline, and our bloodline is connected to us. You see the trick? Yeah, they are trying to create history. They cannot. So, spiritual law does not apply to us, but it applies to our bloodline. And our bloodline, as a result, affects us. Physical law. Physical law applies to us. It applies to our physical genetics because we are in this space and we can command it and we can create. Right? So, because them don't want to get affected by all of the things them what them do, once they make it known, it is up to us whether or not we want to accept it or we want to reject it. It is up to us if we want to shield ourselves from it or if we want to accept it. But most people don't know none of this, what we are talking about. Most people don't know wagwan. They don't know their head from them foot. So anyways, the reason for them to want to separate us from each other, right? The reason for them wanting to separate us was because we have what you call a group mind nature. The group mind nature, what we have, you see? You see, if we have, let's say, 2 people who are brave, just 2, and we have 10 people where them kind of dip on the fence, them not really violent, them not really want to do nothing with them now have to do and all them something there, right? These 2 people can transfer their bravery over yourself. Just 2 people in a society can transfer or transmit their bravery. They can activate the bravery in our group of people. See? So, you see when the time comes, we're not going to really see. All of this what I say, it's going to make more sense to you. See? You just need the basics. Just need the basics. You need the foundation. You need to get certain knowledge activated so it makes sense to your reality. If it don't make sense to the reality, you can't really do much. Say that again. If it don't make sense to the reality, you can't do much. So, this basic knowledge is essential. But there is also another way to bring out the basic knowledge, and that is to come when we start stage 2. Alright? But anyways, we're not operating as one yet. The antennas are there, but they are not operating as one yet. When we're operating, it will be apparent to everybody. It will no longer be a secret. So, that being said, back to the point. The reason they wanted to separate us was because of that, right? The two brave people them can influence an entire population. Not everybody, but enough of the population to start what we would call a revolution. Just two in the same location. All right? So, what they really wanted to stop was they realized that, you see, if you have only black people in any way, listen carefully, if you have only brown people in any location, we can create a barrier. We can create a barrier. You ever hear about some people say, sprinkle salt at your doorway and evil people can't cross? You ever hear them say, sprinkle cinnamon around your place? You ever hear some little folklore and them something there? It is very specific. Anything of a demonic nature, you see, when you have enough away, it don't even matter. It don't even matter how high of a frequency we are operating at. This is why they had integrationalism. This is why they had interbreeding. This is why they hate we, but them know say, if them take we out of them midst, they are literally effed. This is why them say America is a melting pot. If if the whole away, not even the whole away, if most away, they're in one place and we expunge the corruption, best believe them are dead faster than fly. This is why them a fight for keep we. Them a try give we little job. Them a try keep we as just comfortable enough. Like them take away everything and then give you just little bit, just little chupans. Yeah man, you're good now. You can pay your rent, you can eat some food. You're good where you're there. You can't save nothing, But you're kind of good where you're there. You don't need to move, you don't need to shuffle around, you don't need to live in a luxury life. You don't have no time to think, You don't have no time to think about nothing. So you have to keep on dip on the hustle. Fight or flight mode. Right? So when they keep you like that, then they can keep you in one place. And if they can keep you in one place, that means them can they little bit over here so, little bit over there so, they can sprinkle themselves all around to suck out your energy. Because you don't even know so you can protect your energy. You don't know so you can create a protective shield around you to not have people energy vampire them a walk around and suck your energy. You notice how they love walk around and shake your hand? What do we Jamaicans do? When we see somebody, yo, wagwan. Yo, wagwan. We not depend on the handshaking thing. But America has formalized this whole handshaking thing. Because the handshaking, you see, when you don't have an intention and the other person has an intention, it is just like the law. It is the active thinking, the active action that takes precedence. So you know, you are think, oh, it's just a kind individual, common formality, shake hand. What they sometimes are thinking, and not everybody do it, but most likely they are of the mindset. What they are thinking is, give me some of your energy now. Yeah, man. Exactly. Take a little bit of your energy here and there. Every time you go there, you start a meeting, you lose some of your energy, you shake hand. If you don't have the intention of, may I protect my energy. You see it? So, if we separate ourselves from them and they are not able to practice their thing in front of us and allow us to consent to all of these things, what do you think is going to happen? Matter of fact, why do they even do that? Why do they need to steal our energy? It is a distraction. It is a distraction. They get us hooked on the spiritual, on the physical side, and then they practice on the spiritual side. Let me show you nothing. We can go to work, right? Work all day. I'm not gonna really explain that part there though. But you are correct. You are correct, Dutch. See? They did get this knowledge also from the Moors. But also, you have to understand, say, them not directly get some of the knowledge from we. Lone Wolf, that is only half of the story. That is only half of the story. Them not get it directly from we. We give them information to access certain part of the spiritual realm. And some of them things say, yeah man, of the spiritual realm this. But them at the time, them never realize what them a do. So them doom them own self. Them doom for them own race. If you look it up, matter of fact, we can even pull it up and show you. If you look up the decline of the white race, right? You will see that let me show you. I don't have to look far. I'm gonna show you real quick. Right? By 2045, as you can see, right? There will be less than 50 of them worldwide. Less than 50%. Right? So anyways, you see, because them not realize what them did I do, right? Them doom themselves long time. Them don't have an expiration date. This is why AI is so popular. Now, years, probably 2 years back, if you never realized, them did have a thing called machine learning. Right? Them did have quantum computers. Correction. Quantum computers, which they were supposed to bring into play last year. But up to now, so-called quantum computers cannot be used. I can't get into the details of that. We have to go figure out the part they found one. Because they will literally shut down my account for this. But the quantum computers, what them did I try use, right? It is not going to work. The weirdest disease at all normal to them, right? You know. So them a try save them consciousness. That's why them have these cryogenic chambers. You know, them a try freeze themselves. If you can try wake up later on in our life, them a try transfer consciousness from one being to the next, and them a try put them consciousness in a machine, all kind of something, because they listen. If you did not have a fear that you're going to go extinct, why go these lengths? Why you want to try extend time? Trust me, I know. I know exactly what Jamaica is. But again, the ticking clock that is ahead of them. What sense does it make? Because you can't stop it. It is impossible to stop it. Me know this. And it is going to happen much sooner than later. But that is the reason why they are around us this long. Because the more them they're around we, the more them terrorize we, the more them put we in a certain situations, the more them can feed off our energy. Because we create a byproduct of what they eat. They did not achieve the consciousness transfer. It is not a true consciousness transfer, because a true consciousness transfer can only happen with somebody that has a soul. So the one them who don't have a soul, it is not a complete transfer. And even the ones with a soul, you don't have the authority to do it. So physically, it may appear so, but spiritually, you're done for. It is a one-way trip and you can't go back. Right? Exactly, Kim. Can't go back. Now, this goes back to everything we are talking about up to this point. We have to rid ourselves of corruption. And the only way for us to do that is we have to start from scratch. Excuse me. That means, you see, like, how can I put this? You can't put dirt in or something and make clean water. Let's put it that way. So, we have to start from scratch. All of the colonial systems around the world, they have not really been changed. People think say them independent, people think say them sovereign, you know, people think say them have their own government, them think say them have this and think say them have that. But really and truly, only one country so far has a sovereign nation. Well, two. No. Let's see. Four. There are a handful of nations that have sovereign nations, but majority, they are still under some other rule. Let's just put it this way. You see the one them we are fight? Those are the ones who are really sovereign. The ones them who not fight, the ones them who name not mention, them they not really done away. Them not have the capability of coming out of the bucket. Don't care. I'm gonna bring you up real quick before we jump into constitutional drafting. gave that up through Selassie. Selassie could not stop what we already planned. He was just there to hold it up until that time. You notice that even his son them couldn't really take over and effectively rule like how he was ruling, right? He was the last warrior bloodline of his lineage, right? Coming down from King Solomon. All right, Dune Kane already. So where I go? We come back to him. Who else we have? Winston. I see you're back. You're up next. See? So this whole colonial thing is it is a problem for a lot of nations, and they are not even privy to what really had happened, right? So that caused the main problem when we talk about constitutional drafting and why we need an actual constitution rather than what we have seen over the years, right? Now take a look at this. This is another British office, right? This is another British office that was collecting historical documents and information, right? So Marcus Garvey spoke about Drew Ali and the British gave us Selassie. We're not going to really go that far this time. One at a time we can talk about that, but the Selassie part, I never really saw it go. According to the speeches, the actual recorded voice documentation, I never really saw it go. So here we have colonial office and predecessors, Jamaica original correspondence, right? They said this series contains original correspondence related to Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. After 1874, correspondence related to Turks and Caicos Islands also included, blah, 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 right? And this is like some national archives where they might talk about this whole colonial thing between what the Spanish had and how them so-called ceded over to the British and all them foolishness there, where none of this was legal at the time. And it is still not legal. It's still not legal. Because you cannot cede war lands. You cannot cede war territory. You get what I'm saying? Like, if you go and invade one nation and you conquer the nation, you can't take the territory as your own. That was never a part of war. Right? It has to be consenting nations to cede any kind of territory or to surrender any territory. But when you have a war, you can't claim the actual land. You can only claim the things on the land. You know, the possessions, the actual trinkets. But you can't claim the land as your own, even in a war, because the land is civil. The land is of a civil nature. It is inherent to the people. So you can't cede land to nobody unless you actually own that land legally. And this is why we always say, if you ask for the title for any land that is considered to be alleged crown land, they will not be able to produce it. Right? So all of this is garbage. When you actually read through them documentation, they just come up with shit. Then just come up with a bunch of garbage. And they say, oh, we're going to make this law. Oh, we're just going to disregard this and this is going to be the new law. That is not how any lawful structure works. You have to respect what was already there. But anyways, it is time for constitutional drafting. But tell them if you come on a pen and on a paper, you know. So let us start from the beginning, right? For those of you who are wondering, how can I get to the constitutional draft, right? First, you go to voiceofjamaica.com, right? And from here, you scroll down to the first post. It's called New Constitution. You click on that. Right? And from here, you have the constitutional draft. You have the Word version and you have the PDF version. If you want to make a suggestion, you can use the form right here and submit your suggestion using the form. Now, we have had some more suggestions and we're going to get into those suggestions as we go along. So we're going to open the draft in another window and we're going to go down here. And also the previous sessions are at the bottom. So as you scroll down, you can see the previous draft sessions we've had. We are at, I think today is going to be draft, what, 31? Let me see. We are at, it's a lot of videos, so it's loading. 30, yeah. So we have up to last Wednesday, which was session 30. So we are currently at 31. Now, a lot has been said in the first segment of this live, so this is going to be a longer one. Anyways, so here we have our draft. All right. And in our draft, as you should already know, we have our Declaration of Independence, which is the beginning of the Constitution. So this is made permanent. So therefore, we don't have a separate document for anything. This entire document will stand as the single body of law for our Constitution, right? Later on, this is going to be refined a bit, but we're not going to go over that one now. The table of contents have been updated, except for the very last title, which was just added. So all of the pages and all the sections should now match the page numbers. All right. So let us take a look at our newest addition. Actually, two new additions. Let's see. I have intellectual property. Is it two? Let's see. I think it's one more. Infringement, unauthorized reproduction. Okay, so we had talked about, I think 2 lives ago, we talked about protecting different intellectual works, right? And the new section, okay, so this one didn't update. All right, look like say we did not upload our latest draft. Hold on. You know, say for real, the latest draft wasn't updated. So let us update the draft and refresh the page. Let's update. Watch out. Let's go over here. So give me 1 second. Here we go. 1, 2. All right. So let us get back to our browser. I'm gonna refresh. And good. Here we go. All right. So we should have our draft. Let's go down to the end. And here we have our newest section, our national taxation schedule. All right. Try to zoom it up a little bit. I hope it is visible. So here's our taxation schedule. Section 1, purpose. Taxation exists solely to fund constitutional government, maintain public infrastructure, provide public services, and provide constitutional programs. Taxation shall not be imposed for punishment, wealth confiscation, or political control. Payment for labor shall be non-taxable without exception. And we talked about this before. Labor, even today, is not a commodity. It is not something that can be traded. It is not something that can be sold. Labor itself is something that is expended. You can get something back after you give out energy. What we have is an even exchange. So we cannot have a gain when it comes to labor. Right? Not really going to get into that full topic right now, but literally, your labor cannot be taxed. This is just making it more clear in plain language. 2. Personal income. Personal income derived from labor shall be exempt from taxation. Temporary labor taxation may occur only pursuant to the requirements established elsewhere in this Constitution. And that requirement specifically, as we talked about in previous sessions, is only where we might need additional capital for a specific project, or we don't meet our national goals as far as budgeting is concerned, etc. And it would only be for a limited time, like for 1 or 2 years, no longer than that. Household and family activity. The following shall not be taxed: personal purchases, household goods, personal food consumption, gifts between family members, inheritance, charitable donations, income or payment derived as a result of labor. Right? So we have a clear exemption list of things that cannot be taxed. Small business. Businesses generating less than the constitutional small business threshold shall pay 0% business tax during the first 3 years of operation. So you operate free for the first 3 years. After the 3 years, you have 5% taxation. Right? So 5% of whatever you earn for the year, that is your tax. If you are a small business, like a micro business. The threshold shall be established by public vote and reviewed every 10 years. Right? So if this needs to go up or down, this is modified by public vote, as with anything else. Medium enterprise. Medium enterprises shall pay a business tax of 10% of net profit. Large enterprises shall pay a business tax of 15% of net profit. Foreign corporations operating within Jamaica shall pay a 20% of net profit. B. Any applicable commercial import taxes. No special exemptions shall be granted. Right? And all of these numbers are way below what is currently being charged. Right? So this is an economic benefit where it's kind of like an incentive for corporations, like foreign corporations, to do business here in Jamaica. Right? Natural resource extraction. Businesses extracting minerals, timber, natural resources shall pay a resource tax of 25% of net profit. And the size of business is based on income gained. No, it is just a flat rate. Just a flat rate tax. No up and down based on this and that. It is whatever you make, you pay this amount. Right? Environmental restoration costs shall be borne separately by the operator. So if there is any kind of damage to our environment as a result of a foreign corporation or of any corporation, extracting minerals or whatever else from the ground that we permit, if there are any damages, they would have to pay that cost of the damage and the restoration. Right? Luxury goods. Luxury goods not necessary for ordinary living shall be taxed at a rate of 15%. Essential goods shall not be subject to luxury taxation. Right? So if you need things for your household, that is still not taxed. But, luxury watch, luxury car and them something there, they face 15% taxation. Commercial imports. Commercial imports shall be taxed at 30% of declared value as provided elsewhere in this Constitution. Personal imports remain exempt. Commercial exports. Exports shall not be taxed unless the exported resource is scarce based on factual data. Environmental impact requires mitigation. Any export tax deviation or amendment shall require public approval. Financial institutions. Banks and financial institutions shall pay 15% of net profit. Additional taxes shall not be imposed without proven necessity and public approval. Speculative activity. Profits derived solely from speculation shall be taxed at 25%. Something like trading or, those kind of things, speculative, is taxed a little bit higher, all right? Revenue generated under this section shall be dedicated to public infrastructure and education. Public transparency. All tax collections shall be publicly reported. Annual reports shall identify amount collected, source category, expenditure category. Constitutional limitation. No tax may exceed the maximum rate established by this Constitution unless approved by direct vote of the people. Any tax imposed outside constitutional authority is void. Delinquency. Tax liability shall be paid either monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, or yearly. Delinquency beyond 1 year shall incur a penalty of 2% interest every 6 months of non-payment. Delinquency beyond 3 years shall result in suspension of business license and all business operations must halt. Delinquency beyond 1 year after license suspension shall result in business license revocation and levying of funds via any assets or funds available to cover the tax liability. Revocation reversal shall result in a fine of 30% fee of the last known tax year liability. Right? We need to have a proper supply of solar energy systems. All homes should. Yes, we do have that in, well, not that specifically, but we do have housing covered. I don't think we have, that is something that would be an economic plan, because if we put that in the Constitution, that would be something fixed, and we don't want to put something in there that, because remember, we cannot remove anything from the Constitution. We can only add. So if we have something where we put something, for example, this economic benefit, I don't think it would be something that we want to keep in the Constitution. That could be something we vote on as a project, like a national development project, right, as a people. And I don't think we would have a problem with people voting yes to everybody having solar. Mineral, 25%, is that local or foreign-owned company? For the mineral tax, it doesn't matter. Let's see, speculative, financial, natural resource extraction, business extracting. Yeah, it is not specific. So it doesn't matter if it's a local company or not. Extracting things from the earth is always a potential environmental harm, right? So it is still going to be regulated by an authority. And once it is regulated, if it is assessed that restoration is needed, that would also come at a cost. Well, foreigners are gonna already paying for anything they import, right? So they will already have that cost, plus what they are going to be doing here. So we can't necessarily put a lot of taxation on foreign corporations just because they're operating in Jamaica. We would have to have some kind of legitimate basis to charge them more, because for example, based on data, for example, if we have corporations mining, let's say, bauxite, and we figure out what bauxite is being used for, what is their markup margin and so forth, if it is fair and beneficial, then that is something that we can come to terms with, right? But we don't want to say, well, we want 50% of what you make. That might not be something that is beneficial to us. So it would have to be on a a fair and factual basis, right? If they have continued business where they can, they are going to be recouping whatever, we can't be greedy, right? And especially the different areas where we're actually going to have transparency, we want to have something that is mutually beneficial, right? If we have something like rare earth minerals, like what China has in some cases, then we might charge more, right? So it is all based on the data, right? At this point, we have to start somewhere. So even now, if we look at the taxation that many of these businesses have, they have a lot of leeway with, the way things are set up. This is actually higher than what they are possibly paying at this point. Manufacturing aspect, it is just based on enterprise. The amount of employees basically determine how big the enterprise is. So it is not going to be specific to an industry. It's going to be specific to the amount of employees that the company needs to hire, right? And what's the other thing? There are a lot of minor changes and improvements throughout the article. Throughout the document. And again, we can't really go through every single section because why? When we look at even our table of contents, right? When we look at our table of contents, we have quite the list now. And I just want to say thanks to everybody who continue to contribute. Yes, we are getting rid of all of these multiple taxation schemes, right? And GCT was based on our consumption, which was that is unlawful, by the way. We are not supposed to be charged for a living. Just for living, just for eating, just for consuming, we were not supposed to be charged for that. We are not foreigners, right? Natives are not supposed to be taxed out of their nose. So yes, we are scrapping much of these things. All right, Portland Sound, you're up. Bringing you up. Portland Sound.
Right. Portland.
Lawful, greetings.
Yeah, what me do want to ask still like what the benefit per se for starting like a LLC differently from starting a sole proprietorship, because I want to know if, because most people that say go the LLC route, because eventually if your business grow, you are gonna go there. So anyways, but the thing is, I'm kind of concerned about the tax.
Wait, are you asking a question in regards to the current system, or are you talking about our constitutional draft?
The system.
Oh, that would require intricate detail about what exactly it is you're doing, and I can't really give you advice. I can just say generally, and again, it has to be based on specific circumstance. But if you're like a one-man shop, or it all depends on what exactly the structure is and what you're trying to do.
Sounds like a very intricate one.
Yeah, because even if you're a single individual and you're starting a so-called business, you have to know what your goal is. I know for most people, you're gonna say, "Well, I want to pay the least taxes," and I really,
Right.
want to go through this complicated something. But the structure itself, you have to understand how the structure will interact with the system, because the one that pays the least tax is the most vulnerable.
I understand that.
So even though you have an LLC, the problem is that, generally speaking, it limits your liability, but you can also become personally liable for actions taken. When you have a full-blown corporation, the problem is that you're going to need more people to sit in positions in order
Right, but
to fulfill the
you know the
requirement.
matter about secretary and
Right. So
directors and
yeah, if it is small, personally speaking, generally speaking, an LLC is better. You just try to be as conformative as possible. But later on, you might want to scrap that and get a bigger, more protected corporation.
how like with the compliance, how aggressive is TAJ I should say.
That I don't know.
Oh,
When I say
oh,
aggressive, I mean aggressive when it
like you
comes
have to
in.
be like yeah, in terms of are they like everything you have to bring every piece of evidence and tracking everything like that. You understand? Because really ignorant to the whole process of it.
Well, with any business, you should be keeping a books. You should be keeping track of what you're doing.
Yes, that's true.
So if you don't have an invoicing system or some kind of contract procurement system or something where you can keep your records, that is first. You should get that out of the way first, because that is where any regulator is going to look.
Yes.
So if that is in place, then half of the battle is already won.
It
And then
just
the next part of it is,
yeah.
if I was starting a company, I would make sure I have a bank account where every single thing go through that bank account. I don't have no cash, no nothing, everything. So if
Right. You
if
just have
something is
a business account for that.
right,
Mm,
so if something is to be audited, me just print out the bank statement them and give them.
yeah, yeah. And do everything through that.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Makes sense.
So that would be the simplest way I would do it. I don't know the specifics of your situation.
Yes. All right. Very informative. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Big up yourself.
All right.
Cool. All right. So investment. Welcome. So I think there should be distinction between local and foreign to promote more local company on big scale. What do you mean by that? As far as taxation you're talking, or what specific are you saying? Which part? Because we do have distinction here for small and medium. We do have foreign corporations separated here, but we need more specifics on that one day. Taxation, yeah, we have foreign corporations separate right here. If you're a local business, look, medium-sized business, just 10%. No other tax, just 10% of net profit. So no sales tax, no income tax, none of them something there. Just one plain flat 10%. Right? If you're a foreign corporation, you get charged double, 20%. So it is beneficial to have a local company. And again, you would have to go through the normal process as a to start a local company in the country. So it is separate. All right, gonna bring you up. I see you come in the box. Lawful greetings.
Lawful. All right. Let me explain. Me not type so fast, and your space would do then allow us for type can't hold much words.
Yeah.
Um, Taxation. All right. I was taxation. Yes, I realize that you have that for the local businesses, but I'm talking mineral wise because that is actually taken from our resources as a
Right.
nation. So I'm talking mineral wise because if we promote our own companies like all right for the mining and the bauxite and all of those stuff,
Mm-hmm.
those are more foreign investors. We want to
Right.
promote. I'm thinking we want to promote more local people in that, more local investors in that sense that they own these big company exporting to other countries. That's all I'm thinking.
Gotcha.
You
Now,
understand? So we
the-
kind of would wanna promote instead of so we have foreign investors because this is one of the tradition where we need to break from our leaders or from our world country thing where them prefer foreign investor over local investors. There are so many red tapes there where if you have a local investor who want to invest in something, there's so much stopping them. Put it if you put it in a smart short out terms. And compared to investors coming from overseas, we have so much opportunities and grants and all of these things. I'm always thinking that okay, let's just put Jamaican first,
right.
and if we can do put this in the situation where the minings, because as I said, it's not just local business. No, this is mining. This is taking the minerals from the country.
So the question is, because remember, I know that this has to be across the board, right?
Right.
So when we look at some of these things, for example, mining bauxite, I don't know, but to my knowledge, there is no local company that actually has that ability to do the processing for that kind of mineral.
And that's why I may have put it this way. If we have the opportunity or we're presented with the opportunity, we could have it done.
Okay.
Because right now, all right, for instance, a few mining is going on in Senton where I think, I'm not 100% sure, but the names that are being called on it, they are locals.
Okay.
You understand? And all the other ones before, they only have locals working for them.
Right, right. I know that when you have foreign corporations that come into the country, they have to hire locals and train them so that they get the experience, and also we have local involvement in any kind of employment opportunities. I know that goes on, but that brings up a good point. We might want to allow for either the acquisition of the knowledge and the machinery to do some of these things, and kind of phase out any kind of foreign involvement in some of these things, right?
Yes, yeah, I think so. Listen to me. I've talked to a lot of people, and the opportunities for local investors because I've always been asking about this.
Right.
Locally owned, all right, even the hotel chains.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people out here would have actually invested in a beachfront property and build a hotel, but the opportunities that is presented are the red tapes that are presented to them.
Mm-hmm.
The financial input or the financial backing is not there, or even if they do have the money, the support is not there for them to go forward.
Right. Okay. Making notes so we can modify the draft to include some of these things.
And the brother will come on before we asked about the sole trader and the LLC.
Yeah.
The sole trader is basically, well, in a nutshell, being a sole trader, every responsibility of the business is yours as an individual. So anything, any lawsuit, anything, it affect him
Right.
as an individual. Being a LLC, the LLC act as a company differently. Although he owns the company, but the LLC protect him and the company. So the LLC has to be like, not has to be, is like an individual itself. So
Right.
any responsibility is on the LLC and the company's name, not him, but it's on the company.
Right.
In a nutshell, there are more to it, but in a nutshell.
Right. He's in the comment. He said he was just asking about the taxes, wondering about the taxes, if it was worth it. Well, yeah.
Remember now, when you do business, if you start make a certain amount of money, they're going to come at you for taxes, whether
Right.
LLC or sole traders.
Right. Right. The LLC is always better because you get some protection. The business kind of gets separated from your personal thing, but in some cases, they do want to fold the two of them into one.
Right, because if you pass the threshold as a sole trader,
Mhm.
you have to pay the taxes. The
Right.
LLC, you pass the threshold just the same. Cause the another point where you in the taxation, as we're talking about the LLC now, me just remember. The years where you give them 1 year, I think if you pull it up back here, where you give after 1 year,
No, I think it was 3 years. The small business. Small business, 0% for 3 years.
or 0% for 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then 5% thereafter.
Okay. And the penalties section, sorry, maybe that's where I was mixing it up.
Okay. Penalties was all the way at the end. Delinquency, right. So the tax liability is open, to monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, or yearly. The delinquency is start at 1 year, right?
So that is after the first 3 year.
Yeah, beyond the first 3 years, you get suspension.
So actually, so basically, they would actually maybe work out to be basically about 4 year within that before it's them have enough time to do whatever them doing to do and make sure so them thing right. Okay,
Right.
all right. The delinquency beyond 3 years. That. All right, delinquency beyond 1 year after licensing suspension ban. All right, maybe just when I mean, I was mixing it up. I was thinking about it was after 1 year. They giving them 1 year to up with the
Okay.
business. All right, but there are another thing we want to add to it. I know if it don't make much sense to you. In our revision, in our thing, I think the bodies that we're going to put in, exactly. But we go back to minerals. Since it's going to be minerals and it's going to be taken away from the natural resources of the country, I think maybe we should actually be a stakeholder in that, not just a private entity. I don't know if you want to think about that. As a country, we
we being a stakeholder, you say?
yeah,
Stakeholder in what?
in the minerals. Once we are start to extract in the minerals where foreign countries are coming in to extract from our natural resources, rather than just giving them and charging them a 50% or whatever, I think we should actually be a stakeholder or a shareholder in whatever they're doing. That we also have, well, the licensing. Now that me think about it, the licensing are gonna have controls, so we can approve or we can extend their license.
Right.
So okay, so I guess the thing is this: the how long we're going to give them license for and how much control we're going to have.
Right, because we're still gonna have a licensing authority. They're still gonna have to go through the regular business process. This is in addition to that because they're still gonna get taxed, but they have to also do I guess you can say basically profit sharing to an extent. Right?
Yeah.
Because the raw material markup, again, we are not trying to say, well, you have to give 50%, but based on the data, right? We would then determine if that needs to change down the line. This is not going to be something indefinite.
All right, I understand. And the more that me talk about it, I realize that okay, the licensing I got actually make we have more control than
Right.
what we right. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Alright,
because remember also most of the time they're just taking out the raw material. It is not in final form. So when they transport it now, they start refining and do other things with it.
Yeah, man, we know.
Right.
All right, sir. I'm a 2 cent that.
Yeah, man. Big up yourself. Thank you.
All right. All right. Before you go, me still can't get to register, and me here talk about stage 2. I mean, I know what that is. So I still can't get to register. I mean, I try.
Yeah, tell us to send me a message.
I'll send an email and I not get no response.
No, sir. Yeah,
Me
hold
go
on.
on the Voice of Jamaica and send a message.
You go on voiceofjamaica.com and you click on signatories.
Look here, me not even about to go to say with you. Me
Alright,
try too much time
Send
and
me a
not go
message. Send me a message.
Me go send you a next one.
Yeah, on here, on TikTok. Send me a message.
Okay. All right. Cool.
All right, cool. Yes. So I took some notes, so we're gonna make some additional changes as we go through the review process to include some of these other suggestions that are being made. So we're at this point we're gonna touch on some of the other suggestions that were recently submitted. This individual has taken some extensive time to include some detail on what we should include in our draft, right? So I know it's a bit small because this is directly from the email. So I'm going to read some of them so we have an idea of what he's talking about. From the last one, it is more than likely that when locking ourselves into a strict constitution that cannot be amended or changed for 10 years, some large unforeseen problem may arise which we are stuck with. To avoid or mitigate this, either shorten the time from 10 years to something else or start with 1 year lock first to work out any unforeseen problems, then implement the 10-year lock. So this was actually pretty interesting because it does make sense, with a new constitution, there might be things in our reality at the time that we did not foresee, right? So that change was actually made. Let us go back to our table of contents. And there is a constitutional protection. Where was it? There is a section here. Let's see what it is called. No. Let's see. Undisturbed. All right, here we go. So this section is called what? This section is called Authority and Structure of Government, right? So here, where we talk about the stability of the government, right? First, what we had here was the Constitution would remain undisturbed for 10 years. So this was updated to accommodate any immediate changes that might be necessary. But there is a minimum cooling off period of 1 year. So the Constitution shall not be amended for 1 year following adoption and enactment. So once the Constitution is adopted and enacted, it cannot be changed for an entire year, right? This is enough of a cooling period to figure out what real problems we have that actually needs to be addressed, right? So when the year comes around, then we would actually have those drafted and incorporated in the Constitution. This Constitution shall, after 1 year following adoption, remain undisturbed for 5 years if any proposed amendment is available. So after the 1 year, we make any changes, 5 more years is the next cooling off period, right? Because a constitution is not something like an act of parliament. This is something that is stabilizing the economy, right? Alison, we're going to get to that. 3. This constitution shall, after the 5-year period specified in paragraph 2 above, shall maintain a stability period of 8 years minimum before any other enactments can be incorporated by addition. Exception is permitted only in case of war, national emergency, or widespread crisis. All amendments shall be specific to the emergency and require approval by the people. So there is a contingency here, right? If there is something unforeseen that we cannot wait the period. There is an emergency provision here where we can invoke this, but it has to be specifically based on some national emergency or some crisis that we can say, okay, it is absolutely necessary that we incorporate something addition to get it to the left better, so that we can mitigate any problems we have, right? And again, the amendments must be specific to the emergency, so it is not just some general thing. Yeah. And of course, we have the other sections here, which remain in full force and effect, right? Supremacy and abolition of prior systems. Upon adoption and enactment of this constitution, all prior systems of governance, laws, and authorities are void. Only laws enacted under this constitution shall have legal effect, right? So, again, we would get rid of the entire colonial structure and reformulate our own legal system based on the provisions and the requirements under the constitution, right? So it's not like we are mashed down the whole I building them. It's not like we are, take everything out of place and all them something there. It is simply a new set of rules, a new set of regulations, a new set of governance, completely different from what is currently in force and effect and in place, right? So, again, more of that will be revealed when we get to the point of stage 2, right? So, this suggestion was updated in the draft. Next one, he said, Jamaica is a tiny island with limited resources, so allow it to punch above its weight by offering one or more jurisdictional regulatory competitive advantage like other small but wealthy or influential countries such as Cayman Islands for taxes, Switzerland for privacy, Cook Islands for asset protection, blah, blah, blah. Here is a good one. The world has become increasingly heavy on censorship. Perhaps Jamaica could become some kind of censorship haven. Other people who are more specialized in their respective fields can come up with other options as well. Now, we do have in the draft a lot of privacy, right? We have lower taxes. We have quite a few incentives where, it would be definitely a competitive advantage, right? Especially where it comes to the legal systems. For example, extradition requests and so forth would have to conform with our constitution, right? If someone is accused of something, you would have to produce the evidence to support that so that we can, accommodate what it is that you're saying. It would not just be, I'm a thief and you can run in and come kidnap people. No. Right? All right, so next one. As long as they won't throw the environment out of balance or become invasive species, allow for importation of non-native plants and animals. There are many types of plants and animals, both wild and domestic, that would be beneficial or productive if introduced in the right locations and circumstances. Obviously, more care would need to be taken considering wild animals and plants. Now, this one took a lot of time. Took a lot of time and thinking, because when we think about these things, sometimes, for example, we want to bring things abroad, we want to do this and that. Again, I talked about this earlier. There are certain things that are in an area that they are best suited for that area, right? Not only climate, but elevation, the water density, all kind of different things affect plants and animals. So we did actually incorporate a section for this. Let's see where like how they want to change the definition of milk. Nonsense. All right, let's see. I think it's agriculture. 107. All right, so if we go to page 107 of the internal document, let's see. Okay, so this would be, all right, here we have section 15, right? So that is page 110, internal document, right? Let's see if we can bring it up a little closer. Imported plants and animals. Beneficial plants and animals may exist in similar climate locations beyond Jamaica. Therefore, there shall be a research authority called the Jamaica Beneficial Import and Research Authority. The goal of this authority, operated under the leadership of a JBIRA or Jabira commander, shall be to the goal of the authority shall be to maintain a secure, fenced facility with trained personnel in biology, veterinary sciences, microbiology, and other qualified field professionals, and at least 2 law enforcement personnel outside the facility at all times. Import minimal of 3 pairs of male and female species of plants and or animals for research. Through the approval of the Jabira commander, conduct humane and conservative documented research for at least 5 years before deciding on introducing such plants, animals, or fish into our ecosystem after national vote. In the case of any emergency, contamination, injury, or other occurrence, all data shall be recorded permanently. Data sharing shall be authorized with the country of origin in good faith. Right? So we would have a research facility that is secluded for this specific type of research. Right? So we would be able to test the introduction of such plants or animals with other existing local plants and animals. So that way we don't have surprises with any of these animals or any of these plants or whatever the case may be. Because, you know, there are some things that were introduced in America that become invasive species, you know, they become contaminants, they start killing out, you know, native species of different things. So we have to be careful, you know, with what we try to experiment with or introduce into our environment, right? So a research facility would be erected to, you know, do this kind of research and also share the data with the other country where we got it from. And again, before we even introduce it to our society, the data would have to be reviewed by the public and a national vote be taken to introduce the species of plant or animal into the society. All right, so that was incorporated as well. I saw where someone put fish from home tank into a river and was told not to do it because of eco damage. That's true. That's true. Many people didn't even realize that beta fish and what you call those small fish that you have in the fish tank, if you put them into certain areas, certain waters, they can become very large and they can become predatory, you know, so it can cause an issue. Goldfish, exactly, yes. So the next one, a good option for the criminal under eye tattoo is a zigzag line or a pattern. Since this is not fashionable or stylish, does not have any major or common associations, is not a common tattoo, is easily recognizable, and is not common or popular enough thing or symbol on or associated with people, places, objects, etc., would be easily ruined or stigmatized by being associated with the criminals. Well, we already have the X in the forehead, we don't really have a real reason to change that. A zigzag under the eyes, remember also, around the eyes is very sensitive. So trying to put tattoos under the eyes and things like that, that can be problematic. So we're going to keep the X for now. The zigzag thing under the eyes, that can be covered. You really can cover the thing in a amygdala for it. So I don't see how that would be more beneficial under the eyes. On penalties, I think the minimum restricted public duty should be reduced to 6 months. We already did that. Baseline months according to years, according to the crime or severity of the circumstances. I think this is more proportionate way to do it. And for public officials, administrators, commanders, I think the minimum RPD should be 3 to 5 years standard with added time according to the crime, like the above just scaled up, perhaps combined with something else as well. I am of the mind that the lesson should last forever, not the punishment. Typically, you don't punish a child forever for something they have done. The penalty should be harsh enough for others not to do it in the first place, blah, blah, blah. Leaders and administrators, if everyone is too scared to apply for the job or worse, resent the idea of the position because of what comes with it, we should be careful not to sow seeds of mistrust or bad faith in a system or a country that seems too unforgiving in the minds and hearts of the citizens. I think a lesson that cannot serve you is not valuable to you and lost on someone. Okay, let me see. Okay, so that was the last one in the set. Let me address this one. I'm not sure if you're on here, but let me say this. People tired of corruption. People tired of corruption. So if you go into public office, you can't corrupt by mistake. People, go into the comment section and make me know if I am wrong. But from what I gathered over the past year and a half, what me I teach on the things on TikTok, right? I may I teach the private classes. Me never hear somebody say, be lenient for one criminal. Remember, crime is not something you do by accident. Crime is not something what you do by accident. You don't go in a public office and by accident, you do something what you're not supposed to do. You are literally trained. You are trained to do the right thing. This is not politics. This is not semantics. This is not spinning words to say, well, it could mean this and it could mean that, like, this is not something that you have to pretend to not notice. You literally have to go out of your way to do corruption. So if someone is convicted of violation of their public oath, if someone is convicted of violating the Constitution, if you're convicted, there is evidence to support it, and there is also, you can't get out of a conviction when you have evidence. So if there is evidence to support wrongdoing, we not going to excuse none of that. The point of even drafting this Constitution is to rid ourselves of corruption. We are not forgiving for people who are out there making it bad for the entire public. Because think of it. Exactly, you're put in a position of trust and ownership. Think about it. You are in a position and everybody who needs what you are doing has to come to you. Siva, CJ, lawful, greetings. Mene, lawful, greetings. Man-made laws that man is subject to follow, and that there breeds corruption. That is not true. That is not true. It is unchecked power that results in corruption. The lack of accountability, that is what breeds corruption. When people feel like they can get away, that is where we have corruption. And if corruption goes unpunished, that is what breeds corruption. Rabbi, lawful, greetings. Ka, lawful, greetings. We can even, let me see if we still have the article up. I think I had actually closed that one too. Matter of fact, I should be able to pull it back up. Hold on. Hold on. Here we go. I should probably have that. Let's bring this back up. Oh, that's not it. Tradition. I'm gonna bring up something. All right. I've been meaning to talk about this at some point. I don't think I touched on it. I'm going to show you something from the horse's mouth when we talk about corruption. Replacing government with another is not the solution. All right. Male Otis, I think you joined the conversation late. I don't think you are anywhere close to really appreciating what we're doing over here. I think you are in the middle of the conversation, and you think you think you have it, but you don't. Anyways, let us proceed. Let us bring this up a little bit. Can we zoom any further and still be within viewing distance? Let's see. Oh, let me show you the title of the article. Let's bring it back down one. This is Fordham Law Review. This is a law school in New York. All right? And they wrote an article in 1985. What constitutes a judicial act for the purposes of judicial immunity? All right? And this is something you can look up online and see for yourself. All right? What constitutes a judicial act for the purpose of judicial immunity? All right? Under the established doctrine of judicial immunity, you see what they call it? An established doctrine. It means that this has been so widely accepted over the years, it has now become unspoken law. It is the doctrine of judicial immunity. Under the established doctrine of judicial immunity, a judge is absolutely immune from a suit for damages for its judicial acts taken within or even in excess of his jurisdiction. I'm going to break this down a little bit. So he is absolutely immune from damages for any judicial acts that he takes, right? So any act he is taking as a judge, they are saying that he's immune. You can't prosecute him, right? And even if he takes an action in excess of his jurisdiction is his power. Even if he acts outside of his power, as long as he's a judge, he is immune to prosecution, right? Judicial immunity is necessary for the proper administration of justice and for the advancement of various policies. You notice they did not say law. Let me read that again. Let me approve some of these comments and read this thing for you. So when we talk about corruption, right? Just listen. Judicial immunity is necessary. They never say it is something that is desirable, you know. It say it is necessary for the proper administration of justice. You know who is making these determinations? Guess who? Guess who? Who is saying all of this? Exactly, the judges themselves. You will not find this in any law. This is always the courts that are determining for themselves what is necessary. The judicial immunity is necessary for the proper administration of justice. We, the general population, have no idea what they means by administration of justice. This never say nothing about law. This never say nothing about due process. They say the proper administration of justice and for the advancement of various policies. This is why you have the court rules. This is why you have the various court rules. They are policies. They say judicial immunity is necessary for administration of justice and the advancement of various policies. The two policies most often preferred or put forward by courts and commentators are judicial independence and the need for finality in judicial proceedings. The public interest is substantially weakened if a judge allows fear of a suit to affect his decisions. Let me read that again. The public interest is substantially weakened if a judge allows fear of a suit to affect his decisions. How can you determine what the public wants? How can a judge that is temporary in his position determine what the public really wants? Soon bring it up. Just gonna finish up that section here. In addition, if judicial matters are drawn into question by frivolous and vexatious actions, there never will be an end of causes, but controversies will be infinite. Meaning, them no want you bring them go to court, so them a declare so them immune from everything. Leading the modern case on the doctrine is Stump versus Sparkman, in which the Supreme Court held that a judge will remain absolutely immune from a damaged suit if he acted within his jurisdiction or even in excess of his jurisdiction, but not in clear absence of all jurisdiction, and the act he performed was a judicial act. The importance and the necessity of judicial immunity doctrine is well established, but the extent to which the doctrine should shield judges from suits for damages is unclear. The definition of a judicial act for the purposes of the second prong of the Stump test has caused confusion among the lower courts because of its broad and ambiguous nature. Now, when you go further down in this thing here, right, it talks about the fact that the judicial immunity, again, just like it says up here, so it is basically the judge shielding themselves from the public. I don't know what kind of justice they are talking about, but it has nothing to do with you or me. Okay? All right, CJ, I'm gonna bring you up. CJ,
Yeah, soon jump on 876. They're in one place, but give me a moment.
all right. I'll bring up Dwayne. Dwayne, you're up next. So what keeps them in check? Nothing keeps them in check. No, man. Len, you're not the only one. People just sit down there taking everything, And that's why you don't see people are typing in the comment, because this is not an entertainment platform. Exactly. Everyone should be accountable, but what is happening is many of us don't know these things. If you not go through the legal system, sometimes not even the attorneys will talk about this, They will always tell you the judge will do what they want. You can't do nothing about that. They will readily tell you, don't try to worry about what the judge will do. Worry about what you can control. Right? Because they themselves cannot necessarily, I'm not going to say cannot. It is not in their best interest to bring suits against judges. It is always the pro se or the individual who go in on his own. Those individuals who are the ones you will see bring those things to the court. Yes, EJ.
Yeah, the question that I would ask is, how can these things even happen? Because of course these things are being put out in the public. A lot of people see them coming forward, but how can these things even be entrenched? I mean, of course,
They are in and out.
there must be persons out there who see under positions that
Options, lawful, greetings. Yeah, your connection breaking up. They are like Lego beasts. All right. There is always a balance to things, Remember, there is always balance to things. See? Well, if my audio is in and out, it's definitely your connection. How can these things be entrenched publicly? It goes back to what I've been saying for however long. We are still in a colonial system. That is how a colonial system works. The judges are only accountable to the system. Now, that does not mean just because they say they are immune, that does not mean they are immune. It still has to be proven. DJ Millions, I cannot talk about this specific topic in detail on here. I can't really go into that on this platform. As much as I have talked about, specifically, I can't really talk about that on here. But they can be held accountable, right? They can put out all they want. They can say this and say that and all of them something there. But they can be held accountable. There are many of them that go to jail, many of them who are held accountable, many of them who have to answer for their actions. A lot of examples out there, but you will not see it on the news. You will not see it in the regular course of cases, but it is there. There is a clear path if you want to go that route. But that being said, that is not something I would discuss in the public, because that is like a very specific process to go through, right? That is something for private time. However, when we talk about corruption, as we say, right, where some individuals are immune to prosecution, some individuals have this inherent power. And by power, I mean unchecked power. Even if they do wrong, they are being shielded or they are not being pursued criminally. In many cases, even if you bring a civil suit, you have to be very good at what you're doing. You have to learn how to properly formulate such cases in order to go anywhere. It is who can assert force who can win. Not necessarily, you know. Not necessarily. As I said, the pen is mightier than the sword. That is not an oxymoron. It is not something infallible. It can happen. It's always strategy. It's how. The strategy is the how. And that is where everything sits. You can write the best complaint, the best motion, you know, the best affidavit. You can attach the best evidence. But it comes all down to strategy, how you execute, how you put things together. And like I said before, knowledge comes first. You can't run out and just do this and do that, because in the middle of it, what is perfect in your head now becomes mitigation in real life. And in real life, if you don't have a plan beyond the plan, you get stuck. But you just said the justices act outside the law to enforce it. No, I didn't say that. I said they are using a doctrine which is not law. The doctrine is like common law, where they are using these rulings that were made sometime even 300 years ago. They can use a ruling, you know, to justify their action, to say it is a judicial act. Someone acted in like that before, so they can act that way now, right? That's why I have to get rid of all of them something there. This is why we have constitutional drafting, because there is no way you can tell me, say, just because somebody did not say that they have a right, somebody did not say they have this defense, somebody didn't say X, Y, and Z, you are going to rule against them because they did not bring up the objection or the defense. It is foolishness. If someone has a clear right that is defined by law, the law is in operation because someone has a right. And just because them not say it to you or they not put it in a one document, you are going to say them never have the right, or them never assert the right. Bullshit. I say, get rid of all of that nonsense. Make all rulings as it relates to the Constitution. We don't care for the trial court. We don't care for the Court of Appeals. We don't care for the apex court. Everything is based on the Constitution. That's it. No more fringe rules, no more acts of parliament, no more regulations. Get rid of the whole of it. That is the only way we are going to have a standardized and fair system. We're not fighting against anything. We're not. When this constitution goes into force and effect, there is no fight. Who is going to fight who? For what? If we decide we want this new system, right? Who is going to fight us? That is the question. Because remember, you know, if we take our attention away from the distraction stay by itself. So, what are we going to be fighting? We don't need to fight. Our system is going to be established and instituted. All the rule of law is going to be in one document. So, we don't need to fight. If they want to fight, them fight themselves. When you have an armed nation, when you have a nation that knows self-defense, when you have an educated nation that knows not only the physical, I can't say much more here, you know. I can't say much more here. But for those of you who have been here from the start of this live, want to get a taste of what is coming. Those of you who are in class already, want to already know enough of this. Those of you who are in spiritual class, want to already know much of this as well. But what is coming? I want to see what I go on. There is no fighting that is necessary. We don't need to go ask permission for nothing. We don't need to go begging. We don't need to go petitioning. We don't need to go marching. This is not a begging campaign. The Prime Minister himself say what? Have dignity. Hold your dignity together. Don't go out there begging. Yeah, man. That's what we do. We not beg. We not plea. We not war with nobody. It will be apparent soon enough. See? For those who keep asking, what is the next step? What is stage 2? What is this? No worry yourself. Once we're done with drafting, then you will see exactly what is happening. All right? Knowledge first, actions later. All right? So, that being said, we are 99% done. 99% done with the drafting. Much of what is left is going through the rest of the draft. As you can see, we are at 352 pages. Everything is pretty much in line, but the language needs to be sharpened. We already have teeth, you know, but we are going to sharpen the teeth them to make sure we don't have no loophole. We don't have no little section where can be exploited or could be expanded and all them something there. So make sure everything is coherent, everything is still in plain language. We don't have no words that people don't know and all them something there. Make sure the definition section is completely updated. Them can delete all them want. We have copies. We have the security. We have things in place. We're not worried about that. Them can try delete whatever them want. But, you know, we're going to make sure that the document is comprehensive enough that we do not need to modify it for whatever reason, you know, within the first year or whatever. I mean, again, we can't plan for the future, right? Once we introduce the economy and everyone else into it, then, you know, we will see if something is really necessary as we begin to build a sovereign nation. See? So, that being said, that is it for tonight. We're going to continue again this coming week. I don't think we're going to have a draft session on Monday, but we will go live Monday, Wednesday, and finish up this draft. It's a little lengthy, but worth the read. I implore everyone, let me show you again how to get to the draft. All right? To get to the draft, you go to voiceofjamaica.com. See it up here, so? Voiceofjamaica.com. You scroll down, you click on the first post, which is New Constitution. And this is where you have the draft. And from here you can review it. I encourage everyone to go and read it. The PDF is right here. You can read it on your phone, your tablet, your computer, whatever device you're on. If you want to make a suggestion, you can make a suggestion using the form right under the download links. And we will try to incorporate any additions you have. All right. So the research section is also going to be updated with what we discussed tonight. and you will also have access to the replay on the same page. You just scroll down to the bottom and you will have a copy of the replay by tomorrow. Who is responsible for the new draft? I am responsible for updating the draft. Everyone else that is on the live is responsible for reviewing and also making suggestions on what to include in the draft. Zine? So, big up on yourself. Thanks again for joining. And we will see you tomorrow. Sorry, Monday. Monday and Wednesday and Saturday. 7 p.m. 6 p.m. Jamaica time. Lawful. Always.